We're not ready yet.
Okay, well, we're live, so there's that. I'm not going to worry too much about that. We'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm so excited to meet Carmen.
Dustin, Stout. Okay, Dustin, there is no green room today, Dustin. All right. Of course, we'll see. People won't start trying to. We'll see what happens and who comes in.
It's the live green room. That,
Right.
Everybody's invited.
We'll see what happens. There's 200 some odd people. We're going to make sure that mic is on.
It is. I saw when you were talking earlier, I saw the green.
Oh, okay, great.
So
yeah, you can see the green thing there too. Yeah, there's 200 some odd people who said yes to the invitation, but we will see how many show up at this. Okay, yeah. How soon are you going to launch the HOA?
how about now?
Hello!
Hello there!
Hey,
Oh, you're-
Hey, did you see that I accidentally made it live out of the gate? I mean, I haven't really shared the link out. Well, I did just share it out, but no one's actually popped in yet. But they're going to pop in kind of randomly, so
Oh, great.
I'm sure.
so we have a bad kind of a bad weather night here in eastern Massachusetts, so we're not going to have a big attendance. We got at least one or two more people coming to the group here, but I'm sure a lot more online.
It's going to get very echoey for a second. Sorry about that.
Hello! Hello there! Hey.
Well, at least introduce me to the first guest we have here.
We will. Gail Harris, Dustin Stout.
Hey, nice to meet you. I've seen your name all over the place.
Oh, stop it. You said your name was Gail?
Right now, but
Bathroom stalls, places like that.
Yeah, important place.
For a good
Yeah,
time.
live viewer too. So whoever is already live, please let us know. We accidentally started the HOA early. I hit the live button, so you're going to get to listen to us casually chatting while we're not quite yet formally starting the show for about 6 minutes. That will include drinking a fine Killian's Red. We're doing that in honor of you, Dustin, since you're red and we're red as well. Okay, Dustin, you still there?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
Okay. All right, so for those of you who have already popped in live, again, we are just I accidentally pushed this show live early, but you're going to get to listen to us chat casually in the green room before we start the real show.
This is the bonus content. Usually people pay extra.
Yeah,
I'm getting it free tonight.
I like this. Inviting people into the green room. That's brilliant.
You could say that.
Don't try to play it off like it was an accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Now people will know all our secrets. They'll know, what happens behind the scenes, all the magic that happens before the show starts.
Excellent. Yeah, so we're going to go visual today, are we?
Of course.
Awesome.
All visual all the time.
All visual all the time. Yes, excellent. We're looking forward to it. Okay, that's a cool conference room and nice beer. William Rock likes the beer. So William is learning all the things I drink because he also saw me show off a bottle of wine the other day.
We all saw that one, Eric.
Yeah, there you go.
The one where you were drinking it while everyone else was at a party that you were throwing and you weren't actually there.
Well, that was a different time I was showing off wine. Yesterday I showed off a bottle of a King Cabernet, which is an excellent Cabernet wine. So.
I missed that one.
Yes, that was yesterday on Zara Altair's show. So, which is a good show. Excellent. So, what do you want to talk about today? What's our agenda?
I thought we might talk about the LA Lakers, the Dodgers maybe.
Yeah, Patriots are playing tonight.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want to have a show filled with a lot of four-letter words, then let's by all means talk about them.
Oh, no. We're going to talk about visuals, particularly the power of visual in marketing. Because I think I think it's clear by now that it's a trend. It's at least a thing for the time being, and I don't think it's a passing trend. But all evidence that I seem to have points to this being a permanent shift in internet culture.
That sounds like a cool topic. All right, so what I'm going to do now, because I did already push the live button, as I said, I'm going to run a formal introduction and act like I just hit the live button now. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
So we'll start just a couple of minutes early. Is that okay?
We'll do the official, like, here we go.
Cut. Roll them. Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Eric Enge. I'm the CEO of Stone Temple Consulting. I'm here with my co-host,
Mark Traphagen, Director of Online Marketing for Stone Temple Consulting.
and visiting with us is
Gail Harris.
excellent, and our special guest star, Mr. Go ahead, fill in the blanks.
Dustin W. Stout.
All right, excellent. So, hey, Dustin, it's great to see you in Vegas, and actually get to spend a little time last week. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Any excuse to go out to Vegas, I mean, it's only about an hour flight from me, is awesome. It just happened to be a bonus that got to meet up with a bunch of Google Plusers, and you guys are two that, we've known each other for a while, but never hung out in real life, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes, the classic Pearls, as I call it, which is a really horrible name because to me, in college, that meant something else.
And especially in Vegas, it tends to mean.
Well, my good friend Mia Voss has coined a new term that I actually like a lot better, and it's HIP. So it stands for Hang Out in Person.
Ah, hang out.
Better sounding than hurl.
So we can all be hipsters when we get together.
Yeah, we can be hipsters.
Something I've always aspired to.
Okay, so that will make it a hip show.
Well, you're already on Ello, Mark, so, I mean, doesn't that kind of qualify you as a hipster?
Well, I was on Ello last week. Ello is so over. I'm.
Right, yeah. You're such a hip.
I have a new network, but you're not ready for it.
Well, somebody announced some new network at PubCon as a joke. I forget what it was.
Audi, it's OWDY. It's a satire on social networks, but
Yeah, there you go. So awesome. So let's get rolling here with some dig into visuals. I mean, let's start by talking about what we know about how visuals make a difference. And I guess what I mean by that is we've all seen data about how it impacts engagement and sharing and all these kinds of things. Can you share some thoughts on that, Dustin?
Sure, and my thoughts on the subject are kind of what I've been realizing through my entire journey, getting into social media and the online world of marketing and promotion. And what I'm finding is the digital world is a microcosm of real-world advertising and marketing. And I think what social media has done is it's accelerated the evolution of the digital space. So I love using the example that one of Google's lead design people, one of Google's lead, I forget her title, lead of one of their design leads. She wrote a blog post on Medium that has really affected me and really kind of validated a lot of the thoughts I was having on the evolution of the internet. And she likened it to the evolution of the car. And I just love this story because it illustrates it so perfectly. In the beginning, when cars were first invented, when Henry Ford was manufacturing the first Model T, the industry and the idea was so new that form was not even part of the form. Didn't really matter as much. What was mattered was, hey, this is a new thing. We have to figure out how to make it work. We have to make sure that we get the functioning down. So people were so excited about this new function of a thing, of an invention, and it was, it was so new and revolutionary that people didn't care what it looked like. Just the fact that it existed was something new and fascinating, and it grew. And before too long, these cars started getting better. Manufacturing them started becoming more effective. More competition started to happen in the car manufacturing space, to the point where it was you couldn't really differentiate between models, or manufacturers for that matter. Your options were a black car, a black car. You could also have a black car or a black car. And before too long, the function of it all, the process of building it, became much easier, and it was time for an innovation. The manufacturers needed a way to stand out, and so form became a big part of crafting a vehicle and building a car. So aesthetics became very important. The beauty of the machine became more important. So manufacturers started making cars more beautiful, and as it evolved, the form and the function started to work hand in hand, and things just grew rapidly. Now, instead of the clunky, boxy, mechanical-looking Model T is something that looks completely archaic when you take a look at a beautiful, well-crafted
like that?
Model S.
See, I've shared a do's and don'ts.
Right. So the beauty of it, the aesthetic, visual beauty, was an evolution. It was part of an evolution, much like the internet age. The internet at the beginning was just something so big and so complicated that we were just trying to figure out how to make it work. It didn't matter what it looked like; it just mattered that it worked. You think of the first computer, the first Apple computer, even, it was big, bulky, clunky, did a few things, wasn't pretty, but at the time it was revolutionary, and it was all about trying to figure out how it worked. And now we come to today, and it's just funny. Apple had an event today. Apple is one of the best companies when it comes to marketing and talking about craftsmanship and beauty, and really making the form of a thing the most compelling part of it. So I think the internet has just rapidly evolved over the last 5 years or so, with social media making the digital world closer and closer to real-life business and real-life marketing and real-life advertising. So magazines, let's take that for example. As much as people want to say that magazines are dying and they're struggling, they've known some things that have worked for years and years and years. They knew decades and decades ago that people are visual. People connect to images, because in real life, one-on-one conversations, we are interacting, we're looking at people, we're emotionally tied to what we interpret visually around us. And it's apparent when you open up a magazine, it's all about the visuals, the typography, the photography, and how all those elements work together to create an experience. And in the early days of the internet, that wasn't a concern, because we couldn't figure out how to make that work. But as technology progressed, and how easy it is to build a website today, I can literally in 5 minutes build someone a brand new website, install a simple WordPress theme, and have instantly their own magazine that is both functional and beautiful at the same time in 5 minutes. Whereas 20 years ago, that wasn't even a possibility. So the ease of use of building something beautiful online makes it all the more important to stand out now. And that's my
couple things that you mentioned. One that strikes me is I really like the fact that you included the mention of typography in there because, you know, we all at this point can have a very intuitive understanding that a great image, great video, these are things that are very powerful. But even the typography matters, right? Yeah. The look of the font is something that really is a part of the visual experience, and it goes a lot deeper than the rest of it. And just want to throw that out there as one comment. But then I also wanted to share something that Tim Ash, the CEO and founder of Site Tuners, shared with me, and that is that there's like 3 types of learning modes, right? And one is really sort of the visual learning, which for most people is the most easily accessible. I should take this off a white box so people can see me talking here. So you know, that's the most accessible. Then there's basic cognitive learning where you have to look and read and interpret and think, and that's another layer. And by the way, I'm talking at a web page level now. And then the third is when I actually have to involve motor skills, i.e. it's below the fold. And now I actually have to do something additional or click on another link to get something. So that's not necessarily a different kind of learning, but from a web page perspective, those are 3 different levels. People get the image almost immediately. Mm-hmm. They have to use some effort to get the text through reading. And then finally, the third level is they have to actually move the screen to get to something beyond that. And so that's something that I thought was really interesting from Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, this past week, more data came out. A company wrote a very extensive blog post that I shared out about marketing for startups. And startups, as we all know, need a lot of help. And a lot of the times they don't have the time, the resources to do big testing and all this complicated sales studies and market research. But the one thing that this study included was some very significant market research talking about conversion optimization. So they noticed that one of the big trends in website design today is a big, giant hero image is what we call it in the web design world. A big, giant image. As soon as you load the page, you see a big image and some text explaining the context or whatever the call to action is for the website. They noticed that on websites that do contain a relevant big image as the first thing that a person sees, have conversions of up to 39% more than the websites that do not have a big giant hero image at the top. So that's very telling of the power of using visuals and striking up an emotional connection, because really that's all a photograph does. Essentially at its root, it allows us as human beings to make an instant emotional or even intellectual connection with the context that we are entering in.
It's like, Dustin, that's now like so much. If you look at our Stone Temple blog, from a year ago or more, you'll see, blog posts just start out with text. You go right in the text, this wall of text going down, maybe a little picture off to the side, something like that. Now, if you look at it for the last number of months, you see we don't put up a post anymore without what we call a theme image. And an image above the fold is at the top. It's for exactly what you're saying, the power of that people can immediately grasp from that image something that connects with them on a level that the text won't do, and draws them in and makes it, I think, more likely they're going to bother to read the text. Mm-hmm. That visual impact.
Yeah, and different people, like you were saying, Eric, different people learn different ways, they interpret different ways. And I've had multiple discussions with people who are very literary oriented, where they don't care to see images, they just want text, and they'll argue for hours about how visuals don't matter, and then I'll show them my stats. But it's very true. Even if it's something that isn't cognizantly recognized, I'm convinced that the presence of a relevant image can help a person connect better to the message. And you know, there's all kinds of stats on how the human brain works, and you know, how we interpret visuals. Visuals are interpreted 60,000 times faster than text. So our brain is literally computing what it is we're seeing so fast that that it may not even be we may not even be cognizant of what it is the connection we're actually making. And all that to say, you know, the emotional connection we have with images can be and is powerful, and it's something that the advertising world, the brick and mortar advertising world, has known for decades. They just didn't want to tell us digital guys because they hoped we wouldn't catch up. But thanks to Pinterest and Google Plus and you know, the increased popularity of visuals online, images, photography, we've evolved very quickly, and we're just beginning to realize that these old school marketing and advertising techniques and you know, things that they've done from a visual standpoint are working online in a big way.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense because it's a lot easier to get that emotional attachment to an image, or emotional reaction to an image. And I know Mark and I talk about this a lot. It's when we're writing articles, it's the title, the first sentence, and the first image, what you were calling the hero image.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, search engine land, they try to put a hero image on everything there. So they've really picked up on this as well. And you know, these are the things that people can get an immediate visceral reaction to, and they're going to make their decision whether they're going to engage with your content based on that alone.
Yeah, and it's I think also built into our naturally evolved sense of, oh gosh, I had a name for it, I lost it. I haven't had enough coffee today. But as human beings, we've had to evolve to recognize either visually, auditory, you know, all of our senses. We've had to use our senses to decide, to make decisions about safety. To make, you know, we instantly make decisions about people based on how they look, how they appear. If somebody walks up to us and looks disheveled, unshaven, you know, wearing no shoes, smells badly, and they want to offer us something to buy, we are less likely to buy from that person as opposed to someone who walks up to us who is clean-shaven, more visually put together, so to speak, because we've learned to take these visual, auditory, sensory cues and make a decision of trust, a decision of, you know, whether or not we should interact with that individual or person or entity, all based on our senses. And, you know, visual is one of the most powerful ones that we use to interpret the world around us. So the same goes, I think, for a website. When you land on a website that doesn't have any emotional connection, it looks maybe rinky-dink put together like some, you know, kid put it together 10 years ago, doesn't look up to date, doesn't look current. We are much more skeptical in giving any personal information or making any purchase decisions, because we're beginning to train ourselves with those same instincts for our digital experiences rather than our in-person experiences.
I wouldn't mind jumping in from the writer's perspective just for a minute. I was an advertising copywriter for many years. I actually got trained on Madison Avenue, and so I work with designers my whole life.
Nice.
And everything that you're saying is true. You know, the graphic is so incredibly important. The type, you know, what the type looks like. Each decision that the designer makes is really important. As a writer, when you work together with as a writer team, you know, the writer would come in and actually, I would suggest, well, I think this typeface looks good as well. I would have ideas, but it was the design that certainly would render it. But just to sort of bring the gestalt, you know, that first image, it is really so important. But if the copy, your text, and the content doesn't support it right away, the image, you know, it's not going to go that far. So I just wanted to just bring that perspective in. That headline, that's got to really grab you. It's got to work complementary with the visual, and then you really got something going. So just
you think about the magazine world. How much money do you think an average magazine spends on that cover image? The number would blow your mind. You know, what time would spend on one image, what they would pay one photographer for one image to make all of that work, and the time that they spend crafting each headline. And even billboards, you know, big billboard advertising companies, do you know how much money they spend on that one visual? It's astronomical. And we need to learn in the digital space, in the digital world, that we need to take that same care, that same emphasis on crafting that visual experience, because it makes all the difference. Otherwise, you know, magazines and traditional advertisers wouldn't be so wouldn't be putting so many resources into it.
Yep, absolutely. So we have a couple more people who have joined us. So Carmen Rojas.
Hey Dustin, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
What's up?
He asked you a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you say, Dustin?
I said good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I see you're braving the weather out there.
Yeah, it was not fun driving in, but I'm here. That's the important thing. So.
Tina Gleisner.
Hi, Tina.
He's a first-timer with us, right?
Yep.
Thanks
From
for coming.
Southern New Hampshire, so
Oh, wow.
Oh, you
a
mean
lot of
right.
traffic getting down. It took me 2 hours.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I'm
me
so
too,
sorry.
so.
Yeah, that's so
At 5:30.
such a and I think the weather scared a lot of people away. So we'll get a small intimate conversation. We'll get out of this. So that's great. But and I do think it's a great point, Gail, about the importance of how they have to reinforce each other. Right, really important. You can put this amazing image up. If it doesn't relate enough to what's in the title or that opening paragraph, then, you deceived me, I'm out of here.
Right, exactly. It's about
your trust.
And Ray, if you put up like Ray Hiltz's question or comment there, Ray Hiltz has a related point there. Ray says, he agrees that images are very important. How important is the visual of a well-formatted post, font, spacing? Well, Gail just addressed that. That's all part of the visual impact, isn't it? That it's something that we're all having to learn, because as you were saying in publishing before, there are people that took care of that. You had departments that took care of the font and the visuals. Now, if you're a blogger, typical blogger doesn't have a department for that. We have to learn and educate ourselves about the value of white space and what size fonts and things like that.
White space is so important.
Yeah, and it's something, typography and fonts in particular is something that the publishing world has been very well versed on. You look at book publishers. One of the best lessons a blogger can learn from a traditional book publisher is look at how every book that they read is encompassed by white space, meaning the area of blank space surrounding the text, and the number of characters per line. There is actually a principle, they call it the golden ratio for typography, that the human brain tends to only be able to process efficiently 65 to 75 characters per line. So in any given line of text, it should never exceed 75 characters. Otherwise, it becomes a bit tedious to go from the end of one sentence and find your place down on the next sentence. It becomes a little bit harder when you add more characters. Likewise, if the line is too short, if there are too few characters, it becomes too tedious because you're switching lines too frequently. And the human brain doesn't like that. So in order to create a beautiful reading experience, I always teach all my clients, and I actually taught a class a couple weeks ago, Visual Content Mastery, that the optimal characters per line in a blog post, any web copy, or any copy anywhere, doesn't have to be web, it could be print of any kind or anything. The optimal characters per line should be 65 to 75, between 65 and 75.
Interesting. So I'm going to share a comment here from Lee Rickler, just confirming He likes the use of header images as well, although he detests the name hero image. I actually think it's a strange name myself, Lee.
It's an old school web design term that's not really frequently used among non-web designers. It's just what we know it as.
Yes. Well, we have people out there who do test you for that. Oh no, not you. That's the word you picked. Try not to make this show personal like that. So that's great. Let's get into some deeper aspects of this, though. I mean, oh sure.
So years ago, when I was doing some research on the font size, I guess because I like to use Arial, but it's too narrow, so I thought what I learned was Verdana spaces the letters further apart, and I thought it was an average of 11 words per line. It's a little easier to count words. Can you comment on that?
I haven't heard any studies about Arial. I do know Verdana. Each typeface has specific purposes or a specific character. I like to think of each typeface as having its own personality. So Verdana, if I remember Verdana correctly, is a very sort of simple font. It's a very popular one amongst traditional web design because it is well spaced. It's a sans serif font, which, you know, if you don't know typography, it means that there's little tails on the end of the letters. And it's a very good one because it's particularly well crafted for digital space, for computer screen. With modern computer screens, though, Arial tends to be a favorite as well because it's evolved over the years. Computer screens have evolved over the years. And it's it's a pretty safe font to go with. But yeah, when it comes to the golden ratio, I've always heard it talked about in characters per line rather than words per line because words are very inconsistent as far as length. And you can have 11 words, but if there are 11 big words, then that can be a really long sentence.
Yes, indeed. Let's get some thoughts on how to pick visuals. How do you? I mean, let's say you have created a new blog post and you want a hero image for it.
It's called a featured image. That's usually what I call it for a blog post.
I'm sorry, a putrid image? Oh, sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, as I said earlier, like we've taken internally, just it wasn't a big decision. We tend to call them theme images. That sets the theme for the blog. But whichever, how do you what are some tips you can give us about designing a good hero or theme or featured image for a blog post?
Well, my first and foremost tip is always connect emotionally to what you're trying to communicate. Even if it's a list post, a very straightforward. What is the emotion you're trying to evoke? Is it exciting? Is it are you trying to invoke awe? Are you trying to invoke an emotion of contentment, calm? What are you really trying to connect to in the person? What reaction are you trying to get? And it's always helpful too to have a go-to resource for images. I always start with the photo. Before anything else, I start completely with what photo will communicate in some way the reaction I'm trying to get out of them or the message I'm trying to communicate. So I've actually created a list of my top websites, the best websites to find free images. I never pay for a stock photo or anything, any kind of photo for what I do on my blog or clients' blogs because there are just too many resources out there. And I've put together my top 16. And I only use about 3 of them because I've found my workflow and I found that they work the best. So I can link to that article if you want, and you can find the website that works best for you. But have a go-to resource where you can source images, high-quality images, because that's important. Quality communicates value, and like I said, bigger visuals are the trend. and quality is the differentiator in where the internet is headed. So understand the emotion, have a go-to resource for images, and then just search for something that will convey the message. And I'm a perfectionist, and I have to constantly check myself of that. So if you're a perfectionist like me, and you feel like you want to find the perfect image, sometimes you're not going to. So one of the little tricks that I've done for myself to save myself from my perfectionism is I actually set a timer. And I'll set a 5-minute timer and say if I can't find the right image in this 5 minutes, I'm just pulling the best one that I found up to that point. So set a timer, be efficient, because if you're like me, you can waste hours looking for the perfect image, and it may not exist. Once you have your image, then it's important to have either a piece of software or a website where you can go to, or an iPhone app. I actually just wrote a blog post today about the best mobile apps for creating visuals. Your go-to app or software to manipulate or edit the images. So I recommend Canva for those who don't want to spend $1,000 on Adobe Photoshop. Canva's great. PicMonkey's another one. Pixlr, Pixlr is another one. Another great free tool that you can use. GIMP, G-I-M-P, is a free software you can download, much like Photoshop, and it allows you to edit images, photos, create graphics, and they're all free to use for those who don't want to buy the professional grade software. Me, I use Photoshop because that's what I do professionally. So once you have your emotion, what you want to communicate, once you have your image, it's the time to communicate the message. Now, sometimes you may not need to write text. Or you may not even need to write your headline on the photo. I don't always, but for promotional purposes, I always have at least one version. Oh, there's a great one right there.
Well, I was going to have you grade it.
That one gets a 7.
Okay.
Out of a scale.
Give that one a 7 in my book.
Out of the scale of 100, or?
Out of a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay, so tell us what you like about it, what you don't. But let me first give everybody the context so they understand what it relates to. This is the post that we put up a little less than 2 weeks ago, which was we ran a whole bunch of search queries of Google Now versus Siri versus Cortana to really assess which one did the best job of returning direct answers. And I'd love to get your commentary on what's good about it and what could have been done better.
Yeah, so the last thing I was going to say is just if you need to write something on it, write one thing, a headline, as quickly and succinctly as possible. And that's actually what you've done with this image. Now, the first thing I notice is the people, the fighters. So my emotion is immediately tensed. I'm ready for conflict. I'm looking for, what is the conflict that this message is going to talk about? And you're talking about a showdown. So the image has already prepared me for, okay, this is a battle of some sort, and that's kind of exciting for me as a guy. I watch UFC and I'll watch the occasional boxing match. So the emotional value of the image fit perfectly with what you were doing. You wrote the title, The Great Knowledge Box Showdown, or at least that was kind of the context that we wanted. I don't think that wasn't the full title, right?
No, actually, it was. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't the full title. That's right.
Was it?
Included the name of the 3 contestants.
Okay, well, perfect. Yeah. So, and then you've also given the 3 symbols for the contestants, so to speak, the showdown, and that's really great. I would have the only reason I dock points on this one is I think the box might be a little bit big, so I would have gotten it out of the way a little bit just so that the visual was a little less cluttered, and I would have aligned the text without going into a full graphic design tutorial. I would have brought the text down a little more, made it maybe a little smaller, just so that it's not as close to that top edge. One of the things that we humans tend to look for as far as visual beauty is we tend to look for structure, particular structure. And when it comes to visuals, again, white space, I call this framing around the edges. The white space or the framing around the edges should always be consistent. And it shouldn't be too close to the top or the left or the right or the bottom of the image, because it gives us it gives us a feeling of cut off, or like I don't have enough room to breathe sort of thing. So I would have just pulled it down a little bit, maybe shrunk it up, and I would have either aligned all the text to the same right edge or the same left edge, just because it's not centered. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is a rock solid image. I'm sure it served its purpose. I think you got a few views on that article, right?
You could argue that we got a few views on it. But, for people who don't know, this is our article that went viral. It was covered on HuffPo, NBC News, was on Hacker News in the top 10. The video about this got over 120,000 views, but actually this
has over 90,000 now.
Yeah, the post itself has over 90,000. The video is more because the video was replicated in all the places that wrote about it. So
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm going to have to dock some compensation dollars from the graphic artist who did the work.
Can you go back to that?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, we have questions.
I'm glad that Carmen didn't let him finish that joke, because I happen to know who that artist.
I see. Well, and this is like.
And let me just quickly say that I am very tough when it comes to. I'm not one of those, the Voice judges or Dancing with the Stars judges who are a little bit too lenient. It's not easy to get a 7.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not a graphic artist, and my wife will be actually ahead of me in line to tell you that.
Oh, so she'll be the first.
Yeah, so, but this was created in Canva, and even though it's not, it's not perfect. Just you mentioned that earlier. It's an example of how someone like me who just Photoshop totally frightens me. Just
right. Yeah.
But tools like Canva, anyone can create at least an just going to get a 7 from Dustin Stout. I'm going to put that on my resume.
Yes, you can. The fact that you made that in Canva too is astonishing, because it's a complex piece. I mean, you have, based on just what I'm looking at, there's probably like 5 or 6 different elements in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of layering that you had to do in positioning. So, well done.
Thank you.
So, Carmen, you had a question about the image?
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like for you and Mark and Dustin as well. But you guys had the YouTube video, but you could have embedded like the video, so it was a thumbnail. You know what I mean, or an image of that video. Where it linked to YouTube or something like that. Yeah. What made you? Oh, it's way down there. Okay.
Yeah. And so the video doesn't really. First of all, the video. That's partly because the video was a almost last-minute inspiration by Eric.
Well, it was actually past last minute.
Yeah, past last minute.
Because I was in Las Vegas, and it occurred to me we ought to have a video for this, and I called back here in the morning, and I told our video guy, Carter, and Caitlin and Justin, who worked on the study, hey, we need to do a video and incorporate it in the post. I said, okay, we'll begin working on that. And I need it by noon today. And then they went, what? And they jammed something out.
And the video is nice. It's just not, didn't have the time to get like a nice theme image at the beginning of the video or anything like that. So it wouldn't have presented the post, I don't think, as
well, understanding your rationale now, that makes a little more sense. But my question is still kind of that debate. Where do you place video versus still text? And does that make, or excuse me, a still image? For a post like this or any other one.
One thing I'm cognizant of is that these images, also in addition to the visual impact and things that we're talking about here, that they increase the shareability of the post. Mm-hmm. More and more, certainly all of our minds go straight to Pinterest, right? Mm-hmm. But Twitter now, you can have embedded images in a tweet. Mm-hmm. And so having image, whereas a video, just the embedded video itself won't get picked up by Open Graph as an image onto those social shares. Unless you create like you said, you create a thumbnail or you create a fake image that you got to click on to get the video. You can do it that way. But the video itself, the embedded video, won't get picked up as a social share image.
Yeah, videos have shown through various studies that videos don't get shared as much through social media as images. So I'll give you a quick study about the power of Pinterest, which I was not a huge proponent of at first. My greatest audience has always been on Google+. Now, I mean, at the moment I have over something like 40,000 followers, but I've always had my biggest success on Google+. I've always used images, always had a very responsive following on that platform, and Pinterest has always been kind of like, just if I have time, I'll go in some things. But when I started focusing specifically on adding a Pinterest-specific image, I'm developing a WordPress plugin that has a built-in function where you can load an image specifically for Pinterest that's not even displayed on the blog post itself, but it's optimized in the right portrait style for Pinterest. Over the last 2 months, or 2 or 3 months really, 3 months ago, Pinterest started to rapidly rise as a referral site for my blog, to where now the unthinkable has happened, and Pinterest is now my #1 social media referral site, above Google+, which is mind-boggling.
Wow. Can you
that really does speak to that having.
Can you comment on the graphic, the boxing graphic, about the red border?
Sure.
And how important it is and what you lose without it? Because that would have been the big question for me, because you would have had more white space without it.
Yeah. I personally, I would have left the border out.
I did the border because it was a white background, and I thought there'd be no definition of the image. But you think it would be better without it?
Yeah, I think it gives a cool effect if you have a white background for it. I tend to do borderless images, but some people like them. I think that's more of a preference type thing than anything. I think it would have looked really cool if it was just the guys in a white background, seamless with the blog interface. But some people like the border. Some people like that little distinction and that little bit of a frame. Again, our eyes we try to find the structure. We've
got 90,000 views. We'll A/B test it. I'll take the red border off. We'll see if we get another 90,000.
Yes. Yeah. Do that.
So you were the graphic artist.
Yes, you was.
Graphic.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful now. He's going to be angling for more pay. So.
More about what you're doing for Pinterest and what your recommendations are.
Yeah. So one of the other blog posts I released this week was about the optimal sizes for different social media networks. In fact, I gave free downloadable templates for social networks. There's really only 3 sizes that you need. You need a landscape, which is the wider format. You need a square for certain networks in particular. Instagram only allows you to use square images. And then Pinterest, because of the way that Pinterest is laid out, Pinterest is really optimized for taller images, so a portrait orientation. And my good friend Peg Fitzpatrick found through various studies that the optimal size for a Pinterest image is 735 pixels wide by 1102 pixels tall. And again, I have free downloadable templates for these, and you can download them all, use them as you want. But the reason for that is because the way that Pinterest is laid out, you get more real estate. You get more visual real estate in the Pinterest stream with a taller image, and it just looks better. So when I started crafting Pinterest-specific images for my blog posts, they tended to get a lot more pins and a lot more referrals from Pinterest.
And for Pinterest, do you need to have copy on the images?
Yeah, it does help, I believe. I haven't specifically tested text, no text. I put text on all my Pinterest images because, again, people need to get hooked by both the visual and the message. So if it's just a visual, I don't know that it's clear enough that they should click through. They might just think it's a photo and go right past it. So you have to kind of put a message on there, or at least a tease that says, hey, there's more to this story. Click through. And so I always put either the heading or, you know, the one quote that's most important from the article, or you know, a lot of things that do really well on Pinterest are, you know, like if it's a brief list or instructional, or, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, having text on there does help to communicate the message and elicit people to actually click through to read get the full version.
So I have a question here from one of the 2 William Rock people in the show. And I think it's actually you that posted an image tutorial for many platforms, didn't you? Like the optimum size, or did you do that, Dustin? Something along those lines?
What was it again?
Well, look at the question. Didn't you post an image tutorial for many platforms? Or who did that? You know?
I don't know. Not clear on what his question is. Image tutorial for many.
Well, like optimum image size.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just talking about that. I just this past week on Monday I released a blog post about the optimal sizes for every social network. I'll put the link in there.
He did one with the I think I've seen that Fitzpatrick one that has like
Yeah.
several.
There are a bunch of
Yeah. What Dustin?
infographics with.
Oh yeah, it's all kinds. What Dustin did that was kind of unique was he said, you know, you can do all that, like you can do all those 100 different sizes, but if you just know these 3 sizes,
Right.
they will work across all these different platforms.
Right.
So
Every time I create a social media oriented image, I only use these 3 sizes. Now there's so many infographics out there. This is what prompted me to write it. Is I saw all these infographics and blog posts about, and they're going through and they're telling you the exact size of a Facebook thumbnail and the exact size of a Facebook preview and a Twitter preview and a Google post. I'm like, why do you need to know all these different sizes? You only need to know these 3, and that's as complicated as you need to make it. And so I created some downloadable templates that are the same templates that I use for every single blog post or social media update that, you know, I create a visual for. I use these templates myself, and I'll put that link in there now.
Do you use the same copy across all platforms, or do you change the copy on the graphic for each platform?
That depends. So sometimes, well, on most occasions, I'll say it's usually just the headline. So whatever the blog post title is, that's usually what I use. But I will occasionally mix it up based on the audience. So if I know that the Google Plus audience is a lot more information-based, like they just really want the information, I'll generally just use the headline or just the quickest way to communicate what it is I want them to go see. On Instagram, however, the audience there is a lot more, I want to say touchy-feely, but they're a lot more emotionally connected, I feel, because the audience there is a lot younger. It's a lot of you know, teenagers. They're posting pictures of their life, you know, moments in their life, memories, things that mean a lot to them. So I tend to post a lot more quotes on there, a lot more inspiration-oriented stuff. That seems to do better, although, you know, it's very difficult to gauge ROI on Instagram. And on Pinterest, when I can, I try to be more helpful or more tippy. Like if there's some sort of takeaway or some sort of quick tip in the blog post, I'll try to add that. But for efficiency's sake, the headline's always the safest thing.
And how about Facebook?
Facebook is usually I use that the same as Google Plus.
So cool. I'm going to actually give you one more to grade.
Okay.
Don't do this one. I have so many better than this one. This was another, you know, quick down and dirty, get it up. No.
I like the headline.
Thank you. Let's do a show level.
Mark, I remember seeing this, and I instantly loved it because I knew what you pulled the image from, and I'm a big, big Monty Python fan.
Yeah. And the the design here is not very sophisticated, but I was going for a very simple typography because if you look at Ello, that's the style.
Yeah.
Ello, right?
Yeah, it totally fit. The font choice fit the subject matter. I would probably give this a 6 though, and here's why. The image ratio, the way that you broke up the image like that, almost makes it feel like 2 images. So it seems a little unbalanced. Like the photograph part is just a little bit unbalanced. So giving it this sort of instability visually. And the type at the bottom is it's too close to the bottom where I feel like my eyes are running out of breathing room. But still, it made me laugh when I saw it. So all critique aside, it was an effective image because I remember instantly clicking through because it gave me a joy.
And maybe there's a lesson there that gives people hope because obviously I am not I don't have your eye. I'm not a graphic artist.
Right.
But that if you go for a powerful image, if you have an eye, I tend to think in terms of metaphor. And that's why I went with the knockout image for the.
Yeah.
That's supposed because Google, the big message post that Google thrashed the other two in terms of being able to answer. So it was a knockout punch. I go with the metaphor. You have a strong metaphor, and the image connects strongly.
Absolutely.
Visual techniques things might be forgiven, right? Please say they're forgiven.
Yeah. So here's a question from Ray Hilt. What should we keep in mind with image sizes if we regularly share our posts on Google+?
Landscape, 1280 by 720. That's one of the templates that I use or added in the blog post. 1280 by 720 is perfect HD ratio. You can get bigger, but you don't really need to. If you get any bigger than that, then the size of the image starts to become an issue for blog posts and so forth, load time. But 1280 by 720 is what I use for all Google Plus images, all Facebook images, Twitter images as well, and all blog post images, because that perfect HD 16:9 ratio looks great on all desktops because all desktops are kind of built for how humans are accustomed to seeing screens. All TV screens are created for wider viewing. The human eye is actually designed for wider viewing as opposed to taller viewing. That's why some of us get physically sick when we see a vertical video. Oh my gosh, I just want to kick someone when I see a vertical video. So the wider images tend to do better on the networks that that showcase wide images. Also on Google Plus, if you have a wide landscaped image and specifically a 16:9 ratio seems to work best, you have the ability to go full stream. So your post can actually cross over and be highlighted, be bigger than any other post on the stream, and it'll cross multiple columns going full stream, which will get you a lot more attention than anything else. Now there's some people using the Pinterest style images on Google Plus, and that's fine because it'll cover some more vertical real estate, but it'll never go full stream and get that much real estate taken up.
Excellent.
So Eric, can we do a little test here? Can you screen share again the Knowledge Box Showdown post? Because while you were talking here, I made changes in Canva. I can do it that fast, so if we refresh this post, I think I agree with you. It's better without the red border.
Okay.
Oh, you're not showing it yet. Okay. Wait until the screen share comes up.
Oops. Is it showing?
More action, more energy.
You see it now?
That.
I moved the text down a little bit, but the biggest change is removing that red border, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah. See, at that point, it becomes a part external element of the story. It almost seems more immersive than the text. But you can't always do that. So I mean, you know, when you can do that, you know the background of the place. I always try to do that.
You're saying something?
Yeah, I was just going to say about the concept of this actual ad and the graphic. It really lends itself not to have the border because you're talking about that showdown. What is
Showdown.
it? Showdown. Yeah, it's like it really works in this instance.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you.
Sure. But I will say about the border. Though, Mark, where you were right, is it almost feels more shareable if there's a distinguishable border. You know, without the border there, it almost looks like it's in the page. Like I can't necessarily share it. But you know, someone like who's accustomed to the digital space and knows how to pull images will pull it regardless. But there is probably something to be studied there about shareability and the distinguishing, is it part of the page or is it a separate element from the page?
Wouldn't that be more important for a B2C audience? In this case, you're B2B. I mean, anybody who's going to share lives online. They're going to understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do things like if you mouse over the image.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I broke it now because I haven't. We do the plug. We have a plugin that our theme image. If you mouse over it, pin it button goes over the image.
Yeah, it's perfect.
People to put on Pinterest. We definitely got more Pinterest shares since we've been doing that.
Yeah, and one thing about the whole B2B B2C thing, it really does depend because there are B2B scenarios. If you're marketing to marketers, marketers and digital people like me share stuff all the time. I mean, we're shareaholics. We're always looking to curate content, and so it really does depend on your audience.
So, Dustin, we're in the last few minutes of the show. What have we not touched base on that you think we should talk about before we wrap up?
Oh gosh, so much. I think
we can make it a 3-hour show then.
Easily, we could go 4 hours. I mean, I would need to get another cup of coffee here, and my wife might hate me because it's our anniversary, and we need to go out after this.
Go.
But no, I mean, there's so much that we can talk about. We can go into psychology. We can go into best practices. We can go into graphic design tutorials. But really, it comes down to this: communicate your message in a way that connects, right? Can we all agree?
Yes, we do.
Yes, Dustin.
You always say, okay, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yes, Dustin.
Thank you. I did youth ministry for a long time, and I got accustomed to not moving on until I knew that they were tracking with me. So forgive me if I do that every now and then.
Don't worry.
I want you to repeat what I say, at least.
Yeah, why don't you make a quick point or two on the psychology of things, because I find that particularly interesting, since we have time for a couple comments on that, and then we'll wrap up.
The psychology of what?
How about images and visual storytelling?
Oh, yeah.
Like the topic of the show today.
Yeah, sure. So I think I already briefly touched on it, but again, the human brain processes visuals 60,000 times faster. We connect so much faster to a visual that we can recognize than having to sit and read through a text. I mean, it's instantaneous connection, instantaneous context, and communicating a message is as much about intellectually engaging the reader as it is emotionally engaging the reader. So again, studies have shown the big hero images or feature images or theme images increase conversion rates by up to 39% for some websites. So I think that speaks entirely to the psychological effect of visuals, and I'm no psychologist. I studied psychology, didn't get a degree in it, but I do know one thing: that humans connect with things in a visual way that they can't connect with in a literary standpoint. It's much harder to get a connection through reading something than seeing and experiencing something visually. You know, the more we can understand how human beings connect to messages and how they, you know, how we are able to make that, get that emotional and sort of visceral response, then I think the better that we can create these experiences, and the better we can create, you know, long-term connections as opposed to, you know, just a short, quick, fleeting interaction.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're kind of at the end of the show. Any last words before we call it a night?
Well, my last words always tend to be, I'm a product of the 90s. I was a child of the 90s, and the best marketing message that I've ever heard in my life was Nike's "Just Do It." The only way you're going to get better is to just do it. Go try some things, and like you know, Mark said he did a fantastic job at communicating the message at hand, just using a simple free tool and some basic ideas of communicating the metaphor or the core message. So just go out there and try it. Try some visuals. Find, you know, some resources. Go, you know, steal my best websites to find free images. Go take some images, throw some text on them, use Canva or one of the mobile apps, and just try it. It's not as hard as it seems, and you don't have to be a graphic designer to create a visual that connects with your audience. Just make it about connecting.
No, I think that's great. Great advice, Dustin. I am actually going to just briefly throw one question at you from Kristen Drysdale because it came in here. Thanks for joining us, Kristen. And I do want to flash that up. We'll deal with that, and then we'll call it a wrap. So there you go. How wrong is it to grab people's profile pics to put into your post? Should we really get permission first?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I imagine she's talking about, you know, creating a visual, taking someone's public profile image and using it in one of your own visuals. I can only imagine a scenario. Well, I guess there's malicious ways you would want to use that. And in fact, I've been the victim of that. So yes, I guess depending on your intent, it may be a good idea or a bad idea. A good idea to get permission first, if you can. If it's something like, for instance, you're doing an event with someone, I think it's a given that you're allowed to use their public profile image to, you know, promote the event. Like this event, you know, if you were to create a event poster saying that Dustin Stout was going to be speaking at our event, it would make sense that you use my profile picture, and I don't think anyone would object to that. But you know, if you're going to do it in a way that the subject or the person may not particularly like, then maybe get permission. But my thought is it's a public image. Your profile picture is public to the world, and in a sense, you've given up the right to you know, to not have it used in something contextually that's contextually, insert word here.
Relevant.
Relevant. There it is. There's the word.
No, I think, Kristen, my answer to that would be if you're using it in a way that's promotional to that person, then chances that you don't have a lot of risk with using an image. But almost any other use, I would be probably pretty stubborn about getting permission first. That would be my quick take on it. But there's a lot of context to your question.
Yeah, I think context is key when it comes to that particular question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I mean, that would
And they
be
don't
the
even
first
have to
clue.
take it. They can just put the URL into their blog post and it'll
Sure, but like
display.
if you have an image that's not downloadable, I mean, that would be your signal to what you need to ask before you use my image.
Yeah. So we are past time, so I'm going to call it a wrap for the New England Google Plus meetup / town hall / HOA show of October, 16th, 2014. Thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate you. You've been a great audience. And Dustin, thanks for being a great guest.
Thank you. Good to see you.